Maya's heart raced as she scrolled through the unfamiliar messages on Ryan's hidden phone, each one signed with Olivia's name. But it wasn't the betrayal that stunned her. It was the mention of someone else who knew all along. Ryan froze as Maya placed the manuscript on the table, her eyes piercing through him. "It's all in here," she said. "Everything you thought you hid so well. Now it's time the world reads it." As Maya opened the letter Olivia had slipped under her door, her blood ran cold. This wasn't just a confession, it was a threat that he could unravel her life once again. Max hesitated before handing Maya the anonymous envelope he'd received. Inside was a single photo of Maya, Ryan, and Olivia, dated months before the affair supposedly began. "I think you should see this," he said quietly. The crowd cheered as Maya signed the last book, but her smile faltered when a man approached her table. "You got it all wrong," he whispered, sliding her a note. "There's more to the story than you think. Welcome to the Alibis Exposed, where trust meets betrayal in the dark." Maya Collins sat at her writing desk, the tip of her pen resting against an open notebook. Outside, the early morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting soft golden streaks across the hardwood floor. The house was quiet, almost too quiet, a contrast to the steady hum of thoughts swirling in her mind. She had been trying to write for hours, but found herself staring at the same blank page. The words wouldn't come. They used to flow so easily once, back when her life felt like her own. But now a strange weight settled over her, a quiet nagging feeling she couldn't name. Ryan, her husband of 10 years, had already left for work. He was always rushing these days, barely sparing her a goodbye before heading out the door. Maya used to admire his dedication to his job as a corporate lawyer. Now it seemed like his work had swallowed him whole, leaving only fragments of the man she once knew. Her phone buzzed on the desk, breaking the silence. It was a message from Sarah. "Sarah, lunch today? You need fresh air, trust me." Maya smiled faintly and replied, "Maya, sure, pick the place. I could use a distraction." Sarah had always been her anchor. They met at a writer's workshop years ago, and their bond had only grown stronger since. Sarah had an uncanny ability to sense when something was wrong, even when Maya tried to hide it. Hours later, Maya found herself sitting across from Sarah at a cozy cafe downtown. The smell of freshly brewed coffee and baked pastries filled the air. Sarah stirred her latte and gave Maya a pointed look. "You're quieter than usual," Sarah said, raising an eyebrow. "What's on your mind?" Maya hesitated, then shrugged. "Nothing, really. Just a lot on my plate." Sarah wasn't convinced. "Come on, Maya. You can fool most people, but not me. Spill." Maya sighed. "I don't know. It's Ryan. He's been distant lately. I mean, I get that he's busy with work, but something feels off. I just can't put my finger on it." Sarah leaned forward, her expression serious. "Have you talked to him about it?" "I've tried, but he brushes it off. Says I'm imagining things or that he's just stressed. Maybe he's right, but—" Maya trailed off, staring at her coffee cup. "But you're not convinced," Sarah finished for her. Maya nodded. "Yeah, I don't know, Sarah. Maybe I'm overthinking." "Or maybe you're not," Sarah said firmly. "Trust your gut. If something feels off, there's a reason for it." Maya didn't respond, but Sarah's words lingered in her mind long after they parted ways. Later that evening, Maya sat in the living room, waiting for Ryan to come home. She had cooked his favorite meal, spaghetti carbonara, and even set the table with candles, hoping for a rare, quiet evening together. When the sound of his car pulling into the driveway finally reached her ears, she felt a mix of relief and apprehension. Ryan walked in, his tie loosened and his expression tired. "Hey," he said, dropping his briefcase by the door. "Hi," Maya replied with a small smile. "I made dinner." "Thanks, but I already ate," Ryan said casually, heading toward the stairs. Maya blinked. "Oh, you ate?" "Yeah, we had a late meeting and they ordered takeout." He disappeared upstairs before she could say anything else. Maya sat frozen for a moment, staring at the uneaten food on the table. The candles flickered, their flames growing smaller. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. Ryan was beside her, his back turned, his breathing steady and calm. She stared at the ceiling, her thoughts racing. Something had changed. She wasn't sure when it started, but the signs were there. The late nights at the office, the sudden work trips, the way he avoided her questions. A memory flashed in her mind, a faint trace of perfume on his shirt last week. It wasn't hers. Maya shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought. She didn't want to be that person, the one who second-guessed everything. Ryan had been her partner, her rock, for so many years. But now, doubt whispered in her ear, refusing to be silenced. The next morning, Ryan left early again, leaving Maya alone in the house. She decided to keep herself busy, hoping to shake off the unease. She cleaned, rearranged the bookshelves, and even baked a batch of cookies, but none of it helped. Her thoughts kept circling back to Ryan. She didn't want to believe he was capable of betraying her, but the distance between them was undeniable. As she folded laundry in their bedroom, something caught her eye. A crumpled receipt poked out from the pocket of Ryan's trousers, tossed carelessly on the floor. Without thinking, Maya picked it up. It was from a restaurant, a high-end place they had only gone to once for their anniversary. The date on the receipt was 2 nights ago, a night Ryan had claimed to be working late. Maya stared at the slip of paper, her heart pounding. The total was for 2 people. Her hands trembled as she set the receipt down. The doubts that had been nagging at her now felt like a wave crashing over her. She needed answers. Maya sat at her desk again, the receipt lying in front of her like an accusation. She had tried to focus on her editing work, but her thoughts kept circling back to it. The date, the total, the restaurant, it all pointed to something she wasn't ready to face. Her mind raced. Was there an innocent explanation? Maybe it was a client dinner or a meeting with a colleague. But why wouldn't he tell her? Why lie? The questions felt like needles pricking her skin, each one sharper than the last. Finally, she picked up her phone and dialed Sarah's number. It rang twice. Before Sarah answered, her voice cheerful. "Hey, Maya! What's up?" Maya's voice wavered. "Can you come over?" Sarah's tone shifted immediately. "Of course. I'll be there in 20 minutes. When Sarah arrived, she found Maya pacing the living room, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Without a word, Maya handed her the receipt. Sarah scanned it, her brow furrowing. "This doesn't look good," Sarah said carefully. She looked up at Maya. "Did you ask him about it?" Maya shook her head. "I don't even know what to say. What if I'm wrong? What if it's nothing?" Sarah placed a hand on her shoulder. "Maya, you're not wrong. Your instincts are telling you something for a reason. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Maya sat down on the couch, burying her face in her hands. "I don't know. I'm scared, Sarah." What if he's cheating?" Sarah's expression hardened. "Then you'll deal with it. But first, you need to find out the truth." That evening, Maya decided to keep her cool and observe. Ryan came home late again, his tie loosened and his face drawn. He greeted her with a distracted smile and a peck on the cheek, before heading straight to the kitchen for a glass of water. "How was your day?" Maya asked, trying to sound casual. "Busy," Ryan replied without meeting her eyes. The Anderson case is taking up all my time. "Did you eat?" "Yeah, grabbed something quick with the team." Maya's stomach tightened. He'd lied again. She forced a smile. "That's good." Ryan nodded and disappeared into his office, leaving Maya alone with her thoughts. She stood in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the counter, her mind a storm of doubt and anger. The next day, Maya decided to take action. She couldn't live in this limbo anymore. She started small, checking his schedule and making mental notes of his comings and goings. She even scrolled through his social media accounts, looking for anything unusual. But Ryan was careful. There were no obvious signs, no incriminating posts or pictures. That's when she decided to check his phone. She hated the idea of invading his privacy, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. One evening, while he was in the shower, she grabbed his phone from the bedside table. Her hands shook as she unlocked it using his passcode, one she had known for years. At first, everything seemed normal. His messages with colleagues were professional, and his call logs showed nothing unusual. But then she opened his photos. Her breath caught in her throat. There were pictures of Olivia. Some were innocent enough, group shots from parties or events. But others were different. A selfie of Olivia in a dress Maya didn't recognize. A candid shot of her laughing, taken from across a table. Maya's heart pounded as she scrolled through, each photo feeling like a punch to the gut. She set the phone down and backed away as if it had burned her. Her worst fear was becoming a reality. Olivia, her best friend, the one person she had confided in for years, was the other woman. Maya spent the next few hours in a daze. She couldn't cry, couldn't scream. She felt hollow, like the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. How long had this been going on? How had she not seen it? The sound of the shower turning off snapped her out of her thoughts. She quickly put the phone back where she found it and slipped out of the room. She couldn't confront him, not yet. She needed time to think, to plan. That night, as Ryan slept beside her, Maya stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. This wasn't just about him. It was about Olivia, too. The betrayal cut deeper, knowing it had come from both of them. She thought about the times she had leaned on Olivia for support, the secrets they had shared. It all felt like a cruel joke now. By the time the sun rose, Maya had made a decision. She wasn't going to confront them outright. Not yet. She needed proof, something undeniable, and she needed a plan. If they thought they could betray her and get away with it, they were wrong. The following morning, Maya called Sarah. Her voice was steady, but Sarah could tell something was wrong. "I found something," Maya said. I think it's Olivia." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Sarah's voice came through, sharp and angry. "That bitch!" Maya couldn't help but smile faintly at Sarah's bluntness. "I'm not sure what to do." "We'll figure it out," Sarah said firmly. "But first, we need to be sure. If you confront them without solid proof, they'll just deny it. What do you suggest?" "Follow him," Sarah said without hesitation. "Or her. One of them will slip up." The idea made Maya's stomach churn, but she knew Sarah was right. If she wanted the truth, she'd have to go looking for it. That evening, Maya told Ryan she had plans to meet Sarah for dinner. It was a lie, but he didn't question it. As soon as he left for his supposed late meeting, Maya grabbed her coat and keys and followed him. She kept her distance, careful not to get too close. Her heart raced as she trailed his car through the city streets. Finally, he pulled into the parking lot of a small boutique hotel. Maya parked a block away and watched as he got out of the car. A moment later, Olivia appeared, her heels clicking against the pavement as she walked toward him. Maya's breath caught. They didn't even try to hide it. Ryan wrapped an arm around Olivia's waist as they entered the hotel together. The sight felt like a knife twisting in her chest. She sat in the car for what felt like hours, trying to process what she had just seen. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles turning white. Part of her wanted to storm into the hotel and confront them right then and there. But another part of her knew it wasn't the right time. She needed to be smart about this. She needed a plan. As she drove home that night, Maya's mind was already working. Ryan and Olivia thought they had the upper hand, but they were wrong. Maya wasn't just going to let this go. They had no idea what was coming. The morning after Maya followed Ryan to the hotel, she woke up feeling strangely calm. Her decision was made. She wouldn't let the betrayal consume her. She would use it as fuel. Ryan and Olivia had taken something from her, but they hadn't broken her. Not yet. Maya started her day as usual. She made coffee, sat at her desk, and began writing. Only this time, her words weren't part of a novel. She began to document everything she had learned: dates, receipts, photographs. She needed a timeline, something that could give her clarity. As she wrote, the truth became even clearer. The affair had been going on for months, maybe longer. By mid-morning, Sarah called. "Did you get what you needed?" she asked. "I did," Maya said. "They're staying at a hotel together. I saw them with my own eyes." There was a pause. Then Sarah's voice, hard and determined. "Good. Now let's figure out what to do next." Over the next few days, Maya worked methodically. She couldn't confront Ryan yet, not without making sure she had everything she needed. She contacted a private investigator, someone Sarah had recommended. His name was Tom, a no-nonsense man in his 50s who had seen it all. When Maya explained her situation, he nodded. "You're doing the right thing," he said. "You need evidence, solid evidence. I'll handle it." Tom began tailing Ryan and Olivia, taking photos, noting their meetings, and tracking their movements. Meanwhile, Maya focused on her own plan. She knew she wanted to confront them, but she also wanted them to feel the weight of their actions. She started drafting her revenge, carefully planning each step. One evening, as Maya was reviewing the latest update from Tom, Ryan walked into the living room. He looked exhausted, his tie slightly askew. "Long day?" Maya asked, her voice steady. Ryan nodded. "Yeah, the Anderson case is a nightmare." Maya bit back the urge to call him out on his lie. Instead, she forced a smile. "You're working so hard. I'm proud of you." Ryan looked at her, guilt flickering across his face for just a moment. "Thanks," he said quietly, before heading to his office. As the door closed behind him, Maya's smile faded. She'd seen the guilt, but it wasn't enough. He didn't get to feel sorry for himself while continuing to betray her. She closed her laptop and went to bed, her resolve stronger than ever. A week later, Tom delivered his findings. He handed Maya a folder filled with photos and reports. "This should be everything you need," he said. Maya opened the folder and began flipping through it. There were photos of Ryan and Olivia together at the hotel, holding hands, laughing. One photo showed them kissing in the parking lot. Another captured them having dinner at a restaurant Maya had once recommended to
Olivia.
The betrayal felt sharper with each image, but Maya forced herself to look at every single one. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady. "This is exactly what I needed." Tom nodded. "If there's anything else, let me know." After he left, Maya sat alone in the living room, the folder on the coffee table in front of her. She felt a mix of anger and sadness, but also relief. The truth was in her hands now, undeniable and clear. It was time to act. That weekend, Maya invited Olivia over for coffee. She kept her tone light, pretending everything was normal. Olivia arrived wearing a bright smile, completely unaware of what was coming. "It's been so long since we've done this," Olivia said as she settled onto the couch. "I've missed you," Maya forced a smile. "Me too. I thought it would be nice to catch up." They chatted for a while, talking about work and mutual friends. Maya watched Olivia closely, looking for cracks in her facade. Olivia was as charming as ever, her laugh bright and her words smooth. But Maya knew the truth now, and it was all she could see. Finally, Maya set her coffee cup down and leaned forward. "Olivia, can I ask you something?" Olivia's smile faltered slightly. "Of course, what's on your mind?" Maya took a deep breath. "Have you ever lied to me?" Olivia's eyes widened. "What? No, of course not. Why would you ask that?" Maya held her gaze. "Because I know about you and Ryan." The color drained from Olivia's face. I
don't know what you're talking about." Maya reached for the folder on the coffee table and slid it across to Olivia. "Then maybe you can explain these?" Olivia hesitated, her hands trembling as she opened the folder. She flipped through
the photos, her face crumpling with each one. "Maya, I don't," Maya said, her voice cold.
"I don't want your excuses, I want the truth." Olivia looked up at her, tears streaming down her face. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "But it did," Maya said, her voice rising. "You betrayed me, both of you. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Olivia sobbed, her hands covering her face. "I'm so sorry, Maya. Please, you have to believe me."
Maya stood up, her anger boiling over. "I don't have to believe anything. You made your choice, Olivia. Now you'll have to live with it." Olivia looked up at her, desperation in her eyes. "Please don't tell Ryan I told you.
He'll—" Maya cut her off. "Don't worry, I'll deal with Ryan. You can go." Olivia hesitated for a moment, then gathered her things and left without another word.
As the door closed behind her, Maya let out a shaky breath. The confrontation had been harder than she expected, but it was done. One piece of the puzzle was in place. That evening, Maya prepared for the next confrontation. Ryan came home at his usual time, greeting her with the same distracted smile. Maya watched him closely, wondering how he could act so normal while living a double life. After dinner, as they sat on the couch watching TV, Maya turned to him. "Ryan, can we talk?" He looked at her, surprised. "Of course. What's on your
"Mind?" Maya hesitated, her heart pounding. She could feel the words on the tip of her tongue, ready to burst out, but she held back. Not yet. She wasn't ready to play her hand.
"It's nothing," she said, forcing a smile. "Just thinking about work." Ryan nodded, turning back to the TV. Maya stared at him, her anger simmering beneath the surface. He had no idea what was coming, and she intended to keep it that way, for now. The days that followed Olivia's departure were tense. Maya could feel the weight of everything she knew pressing down on her, but she stayed calm, careful not to reveal her hand too soon. She knew Ryan's patterns, his habits, and his tells. If she was going to confront him, she needed to be sure. He couldn't talk his way out of it. That evening, Maya sat at her desk, staring at her laptop. She opened a blank document and began typing. This wasn't for her book or her notes. This was for herself. She needed a list, something that outlined exactly what she wanted to say to Ryan. Each point had to be clear and deliberate. No room for him to spin the narrative. The next morning, Ryan left for work as usual. Maya watched him pull out of the driveway, her mind racing. Once he was gone, she grabbed her phone and called Sarah. "I'm ready," she said when Sarah answered. Sarah's voice was steady. "Are you sure?" "Yes. I have everything I need. It's time." "All right. Do you want me there?" Maya hesitated. Part of her wanted Sarah's support, but this was something she needed to do on her own. "No, I'll handle it. But can you be on standby, just in case?" "Of course. Call me if you need anything," Sarah said. Maya hung up and took a deep breath. The confrontation was inevitable, and she knew she couldn't delay it any longer. She spent the day rehearsing what she would say, pacing the house as she went over every scenario in her head. She couldn't let Ryan twist the story or manipulate her emotions. She had to stay strong. That evening, Ryan came home with a bottle of wine. "Thought we could have a nice night in," he said, holding it up with a smile. Maya forced herself to smile back. "That sounds great." They ate dinner together, the conversation light and unremarkable. Ryan talked about work, his voice carrying the same confidence that had once made Maya fall for him. But now, every word felt like a lie. She nodded along, waiting for the right moment. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Ryan poured them each a glass of wine and sat down on the couch. Maya took a sip, the liquid warm and bitter in her mouth. She set the glass down and turned to him. "Ryan, we need to talk," she said. He looked at her, his expression cautious.
"Okay, what's going on?" Maya's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "I know about Olivia." For a moment, Ryan didn't react. Then his face shifted, confusion giving way to something harder to read. "What are you talking about?" Maya didn't flinch. "Don't play dumb, Ryan. I know everything. I've seen the photos. I've read the texts. You've been lying to me for months." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Maya, it's not what you think." "Really?" "Then what is it?" she asked, her voice rising. "Because it looks an awful lot like you've been sleeping with my best friend," he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It wasn't supposed to happen." It just did. I didn't mean to hurt you." Maya's anger flared. "You didn't mean to hurt me? How exactly did you think this would end, Ryan? Did you think I'd never find out? That you could just keep lying to me forever?" Ryan looked down at his hands, guilt etched across his face. "I don't know. I wasn't thinking. I made a mistake." "A mistake?" Maya repeated, her voice shaking. "A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. This is a betrayal, Ryan. You didn't just hurt me, you destroyed everything we've built together." He looked up at her, his eyes pleading. "Maya, I love you. I never stopped loving you." She laughed bitterly. "You have a funny way of showing it." Ryan reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Please, let me explain," he said. "We can work through this. I'll do whatever it takes." Maya stood up, her hands clenched into fists. "There's nothing to explain, Ryan. You made your choice. Now you have to live with the consequences." He stared at her, panic flashing in his eyes. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm done," she said, her voice firm. "You don't get to hurt me and then ask for forgiveness."
You've taken enough from me. I'm taking my life back. Ryan's shoulders slumped, his face pale. Maya, please, don't do this. But she was already walking away, her heart heavy, but her resolve unshaken. She had given him her trust, her love, her loyalty, and he had thrown it all away. Now it was her turn to take control. Later that night, Maya sat in her office, the folder of evidence in front of her. She opened it one last time, staring at the photos and reports. The pain was still there, sharp and unforgiving, but it was no longer paralyzing. She closed the folder and placed it in a drawer, locking it away. Her phone buzzed on the desk. It was a message from Sarah. How did it go? Maya typed a quick reply. It's done, he knows. Sarah responded almost immediately. Proud of you. Let me know if you need anything. Maya put the phone down and leaned back in her chair. The confrontation was over, but the fight wasn't. She still had a long way to go, but for the first time in months, she felt a glimmer of hope. She had faced the truth, and she had survived. Now it was time to rebuild. The house was eerily quiet the morning after the confrontation. Ryan had slept on the couch, his presence in the living room a stark reminder of the distance between them. Maya had barely slept, her mind buzzing with thoughts of what would come next. She sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, staring at the steam rising from the mug. The silence felt heavier than any argument could have. Ryan shuffled into the kitchen, his hair disheveled, and his expression wary. Morning, he mumbled. Maya didn't look up. Morning. He hovered near the counter, pouring himself a cup of coffee. For a moment it seemed like he wanted to say something, but he stayed quiet. Maya finally glanced at him, her gaze cold and distant. Are you planning to stay here? She asked, her tone sharp. Ryan hesitated, his grip tightening on the coffee mug. I don't know. I thought we could talk about it. Maya shook her head. There's nothing to talk about.
I made myself clear last night. Maya, please, he said, his voice pleading. We can fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever you need. Just give me a chance. She stared at him, her expression unchanging. You should have thought about that before you betrayed me. Ryan's shoulders sagged, and he took a seat across from her. I know I messed up. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway.
Maya's chest tightened. She had loved him for so long, believed in him, supported him. But now all she felt was anger and a hollow ache where her trust had been. Ryan, I'm not sure I can forgive you, she said quietly. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He didn't respond, and the silence stretched between them. Finally, Maya stood up, taking her mug with her. You can stay for now, she said, but only until we figure out what's next. Later that day, Maya met Sarah at their favorite coffee shop. The warmth of the bustling space was a welcome contrast to the cold atmosphere at home. Sarah was already at a table, a notebook open, in front of her. She looked up as Maya approached, her expression a mix of concern and determination. How are you holding up? Sarah asked as Maya sat down. Maya sighed, running a hand through her hair.
I don't even know he's still in the house. I told him he could stay until we figure out what to do, but it's so awkward. Sarah nodded, her pen tapping against the notebook. That's understandable, but Maya, you don't owe
him anything. If you need him out of the house, that's your right. I know, Maya said. But part of me feels guilty. Isn't that ridiculous? He's the one who cheated, and I'm the one feeling bad. It's not ridiculous, Sarah said firmly. You're a good person, Maya. You've always been the one holding things together. But now It's time to put yourself first. Maya nodded, her gaze dropping to the table. She knew Sarah was right, but it was easier said than done. I have. You thought about what's next? Sarah asked, her tone gentle. Not really, Maya admitted.
I've been so focused on confronting him and dealing with the fallout that I haven't even thought about the future. Sarah reached across the table, placing a hand on Maya's. Take it one step at a time. You don't have to figure
Everything out right now, Maya nodded again, grateful for Sarah's support. When Maya got home, Ryan was sitting on the couch, his laptop open in front of him. He looked up when she walked in, his expression cautious. How was your day? He asked. Fine, she said shortly, walking past him to the kitchen. She put her bag down and poured herself a glass of water, trying to ignore the tension in the air. Ryan appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame. Maya, can we please talk? She turned to face him, her arms crossed. About what? About
us, he said. About how we move forward. Maya laughed bitterly. Move forward? Ryan, there is no us anymore. You made sure of that? I'm sorry, he said, his voice breaking. I don't know how many times I can say it.
But I'll keep saying it if that's what it takes. Maya shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. Words mean nothing, Ryan. They won't erase what you did. They won't fix the damage you caused. He stepped closer, his hands outstretched. I'll prove it to you, Maya. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. She took a step back, shaking her head. I don't want you to prove anything. I just want you to leave me alone. Ryan's face fell and he looked down at the floor. I don't know what to do, he admitted. I can't lose you. You already did, Maya said quietly. That night, Maya sat in her office, staring at her laptop. The folder of evidence was still in the drawer, but she didn't need to open it. She knew the truth, and that was enough. Instead, she opened a new document and began typing. The words flowed from her fingers, raw and unfiltered. She wrote about betrayal, about heartbreak, about the strength it took to face the truth. She didn't know if it would ever become part of her novel, but it didn't matter. For now, it was enough to get the words out. As she typed, she felt a small spark of hope. The pain was still there, but it wasn't as overwhelming as it had been. She was starting to see a way forward, one step at a time. The days following Maya's confrontation with Ryan passed in a blur. The air in their home was heavy with unspoken words, and every interaction between them felt strained. Maya avoided him as much as possible, finding solace in her writing and her late-night conversations with Sarah. But beneath the surface, something else was brewing. One evening, Maya sat at her desk, reviewing the draft of her novel. The words she'd written were raw and powerful, filled with the pain and betrayal she'd experienced. Her phone buzzed on the desk, and she glanced at the screen. It was a text from Sarah. Sarah. Maya, I need to tell you something. Can we meet tomorrow? Maya frowned, her stomach tightening. Sarah's tone felt urgent, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She replied quickly. Maya. Of course. Coffee shop at 10? Sarah's response was immediate. See you then. The next morning, Maya arrived at the coffee shop early. She ordered a latte and found a table near the window, her thoughts racing. Sarah was rarely cryptic, and the unusual tone of her message had kept Maya up most of the night. When Sarah arrived, her expression was tense. She slid into the seat, across from Maya, and offered a weak smile. Thanks for meeting me, Sarah said, her voice low. Of course, Maya replied. What's going on? Sarah hesitated, her hands wrapping tightly around her coffee cup. I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but I think you need to know. Maya's heart sank. Know what? Sarah took a deep breath. Olivia came to see me. Maya's chest tightened at the mention of her former best friend. Why? She's panicking, Sarah said. She thinks you're planning to expose her and Ryan. She wanted me to convince you to back off. Maya's eyes narrowed. Expose them? How? Sarah hesitated again, her expression conflicted. She thinks you're going to make their affair public. She said Ryan told her about your novel and how it's based on what happened. Maya felt a surge of anger. So now they're worried about their reputation? They should have thought about that before they betrayed me.
I agree, Sarah said quickly. But Maya, I think there's more to this. Olivia seemed genuinely scared, like she's hiding something bigger. Maya's brow furrowed. Bigger? What could possibly be worse than what they've already
done? Sarah shook her head. I don't know, but I have a feeling she's not telling the whole truth. Maya leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. She'd assumed she knew the full extent of their betrayal, but now she wasn't so sure. If Olivia was hiding something, Maya was determined to find out what it was. That evening, Maya returned, home with a renewed sense of purpose. Ryan was in the living room, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when she walked in, his expression cautious. Hey, he said, his voice tentative. Maya ignored him and headed to her office. She closed the door and sat at her desk, opening her laptop. Her mind kept replaying Sarah's words. She's hiding something bigger. Determined to get answers, Maya decided to dig deeper. She'd already gathered evidence of the affair, but now she needed to know if there was more to the story. She opened her search browser and started looking into Olivia. Social media accounts, event planning reviews, anything that might give her a clue. Hours passed as Maya combed through post after post. Most of it was mundane, photos of events Olivia had organized or snapshots of her social life. But then Maya stumbled upon something that made her pause. It was a photo of Olivia at an upscale restaurant, taken a few months ago. She was sitting across from a man who wasn't Ryan. They looked cozy, leaning in close and smiling at each other. Maya's stomach churned. Could Olivia have been cheating? On Ryan too? She saved the photo and continued digging. The man in the photo looked vaguely familiar, but Maya couldn't place him. She decided to send the image to Sarah, along with a quick message. Maya, do you recognize this guy? He was with Olivia a few months ago. Sarah's response came quickly. That's Daniel Pierce. He's a big-shot investor. Why? Maya frowned. Just a hunch, thanks. She stared at the photo, her mind racing. If Olivia was involved with Daniel, it could explain her panic. But what did it mean for Ryan? And why would Olivia go to Sarah if she had her own secrets to hide? The next day, Maya decided to confront Ryan. She waited until he got home from work, her nerves on edge. When he walked through the door, she was waiting in the kitchen. We need to talk, she said firmly. Ryan hesitated, clearly wary. Okay. About what? Maya pulled up the photo on her phone and handed it to him. Do you know who this is? Ryan's expression darkened as he looked at the image. That's Daniel Pierce. Why do you have this? Because Olivia was with him, Maya said, and I want to know if you knew about it. Ryan's jaw tightened. I didn't know, but it doesn't surprise me. Maya's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Daniel's been a client of mine for years. He's not exactly known for his loyalty. If Olivia was involved with him, it's probably because she thought she could gain something from it. Maya stared at him, her anger boiling over. So you're saying she was using him, just like she used you? Ryan flinched at her words, but didn't deny them. Maybe, I don't know, Maya. Olivia's complicated, Maya laughed bitterly. That's one way to put it. She turned and walked out of the room, leaving Ryan standing there. Her mind was spinning with possibilities. If Olivia had been involved with Daniel, it could mean she'd been playing both sides. But what was her endgame? And how much more was she hiding? As Maya sat in her office that night, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the verge of uncovering something big. The pieces were starting to come together, but the full picture was still unclear. One thing was certain, though: Olivia and Ryan weren't the only ones with secrets, and Maya was determined to uncover them all. The following day, Maya woke up feeling restless. The revelation about Olivia's connection with Daniel Pierce lingered in her mind, refusing to be ignored. She couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery was just the tip of the iceberg. Maya's instincts told her there was much more to uncover. After making herself a cup of coffee, she sat at her desk and stared at her laptop. Her novel, once her source of strength, felt like an unfinished puzzle. Maya decided she needed answers, and there was only one person who could give them to her: Olivia. That afternoon, Maya called Olivia. Her voice was calm, but there was an edge to her tone that she couldn't fully hide. "Olivia, we need to talk," Maya said. There was a pause on the other end before Olivia responded. "Maya, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm
Not asking," Maya replied firmly. "Meet me at the park by the lake in an hour." Maya ended the call before Olivia could protest. She didn't want to give her former friend the chance to back out. An hour later, Maya arrived at the park.
The lake shimmered under the afternoon sun, and the sound of children playing in the distance added an odd sense of normalcy to the tense situation. Maya spotted Olivia sitting on a bench, her sunglasses hiding her eyes. "You came?" Maya said, as she approached. Olivia looked up, her expression guarded. "What do you want, Maya?" Maya sat down beside her, leaving a small distance between
them. "I want the truth. About you, Ryan, and now Daniel Pierce." "No more lies, Olivia." Olivia tensed, her fingers gripping the edge of the bench.
"I don't know what you're talking about." Maya pulled out her phone and showed Olivia the photo she'd found. "You don't? Because this looks like you and Daniel having a cozy dinner together. Care to explain?" Olivia's face paled, and for a moment she looked genuinely afraid. That was just a business dinner. He was interested in hiring me for an event." Maya's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Business dinner?" "Olivia, I know you too well. You don't look at someone like that unless there's more going on." Olivia's facade cracked, and she let out a shaky sigh. "Fine, I was seeing Daniel, but it was over before it even began." "Why didn't you tell Ryan?" Maya pressed. Olivia hesitated. "Because I knew he'd find a way to use it against me. Ryan isn't as perfect as you think, Maya. He's manipulative and always looking for an advantage." Maya's eyes narrowed. "And you're any better? You've been—"
"Lying to everyone, Olivia. You betrayed me, and now you're trying to shift the blame." Olivia's expression turned defiant. "I made mistakes, okay?"
"But Ryan's not innocent in all this. He's hiding things from you too." Maya's heart skipped a beat. "What things?" Olivia bit her lip, as if debating whether to say more. Finally, she leaned in closer and lowered her voice. "Ask him."
"About the money. Ask him why he's been making trips to the city every week. He's not just working late, Maya. There's more to his story than you realize." Maya's mind raced, her anger bubbling to the surface.
She'd suspected Ryan was hiding something, but hearing it from Olivia only confirmed her worst fears. "You're both liars," Maya said coldly as she stood up. "But I'm done playing your games. I'll find out the truth myself." Olivia didn't try to stop her as she walked away, her heels clicking against the pavement. Maya's resolve had never been stronger. She was done being a pawn in their twisted games. That evening, Maya confronted Ryan. She waited until he'd finished dinner, then followed him into the living room. He was scrolling through his phone, oblivious to the storm brewing in her mind. "Need to talk," Maya said, her voice steady. Ryan glanced up, surprised by her tone. "What is it now?" Maya crossed her arms, her gaze piercing. "Why don't you tell me about the money or the trips to the city? What are you hiding, Ryan?" Ryan's expression froze, and for a moment he looked like a deer caught in headlights. Then he recovered, his face hardening. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me," Maya snapped. "Olivia told me everything. You've been sneaking around, and I want to know why." Ryan stood up, his posture defensive. "You're listening to Olivia now? She's just trying to stir up trouble." "Maybe she is," Maya said. "But that doesn't mean she's wrong. So tell me the truth, Ryan. What's going on?" Ryan's jaw tightened, and for a moment Maya thought he might come clean. But then he shook his head. "You're imagining things, Maya. There's nothing to tell." Maya's frustration boiled over. "Fine. If you won't tell me, I'll find out on my own." She turned and walked away, ignoring Ryan's protests. Her trust in him was shattered, and she knew she couldn't rely on him to give her the answers she needed. Over the next few days, Maya's determination grew. She started digging into Ryan's finances, searching for any inconsistencies. It didn't take long to find them: large withdrawals from their joint account, payments to an unknown company, and receipts for expensive dinners in the city. The evidence was damning. Maya also hired a private investigator to follow Ryan during his weekly trips to the city. She knew it was a drastic step, but she needed to know the truth. The investigator's report came back a week later, and it confirmed her suspicions. Ryan wasn't just working late. He was meeting with a woman, someone Maya didn't recognize. The photos showed them entering a luxury apartment building together, their body language intimate. Maya's hands trembled as she looked through the report. She'd known Ryan was hiding something, but seeing the evidence laid out in front of her was a punch to the gut. Her marriage was a sham, and the man she'd once trusted more than anyone had betrayed her in ways she couldn't have imagined. That night, Maya sat in her office, staring at her laptop. Her novel had taken on a new meaning. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was her weapon. Every lie, every betrayal, every secret she'd uncovered would be woven into its pages. Maya's fingers hovered over the keyboard as a new sense of purpose filled her. She'd been a victim for too long. Now it was her turn to take control. Maya sat alone in her office, surrounded by the quiet hum of the night. Her mind was a storm of emotions, anger, betrayal, and a determination she had never felt before. The report from the private investigator lay on her desk, the photographs of Ryan and the unknown woman staring back at her like a taunt. She had spent years sacrificing her dreams, supporting Ryan through his career, and building a life she thought was based on trust and love. Now it all felt like a cruel joke. The next morning, Maya called Sarah. Her voice was steady, but Sarah could hear the undercurrent of pain. "Can you come over?" Maya asked. "Of course," Sarah replied without hesitation. "Give me an hour." An hour later, Sarah arrived, her arms filled with coffee and pastries. She placed them on the kitchen counter and turned to Maya, her eyes filled with concern. "Tell me everything," Sarah said. Maya handed her the investigator's report. Sarah's expression shifted from shock to fury as she flipped through the pages. "That bastard," Sarah muttered. "Who is she?" "I don't know," Maya admitted. "But I need to find out," Sarah nodded. "We will. But first, you need to take care of yourself. Don't let this break you, Maya." Maya managed a small smile. "It won't. I'm done being the victim." Later that day, Maya decided to confront Ryan. She waited until he came home from work, his tie slightly loosened, and his briefcase in hand. He looked surprised to see her waiting in the living room. "What's going on?" Ryan asked, his tone cautious. Maya stood up, holding the report in her hand. "I want to know who she is." Ryan's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" Maya threw the report onto the coffee table. The photos spilled out, showing Ryan with the woman
outside the luxury apartment building. "Don't play dumb, Ryan," Maya said, her voice cold.
"I know you've been lying to me. I know you've been seeing her." Ryan's eyes darted to the photos and his shoulders slumped. "Maya, I can explain." "Don't," Maya interrupted. "I don't want your excuses. I want the truth." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, his frustration evident. "It's not what it looks like." Maya laughed bitterly. "It never is it?" "Just tell me the truth, Ryan. Who is she?" Ryan hesitated, then finally spoke. "Her name is Claire. She's someone I met at work. It started out as just dinners, talking about work. But it got complicated." Maya's hands clenched into fists. "Complicated? That's what you call it?" Ryan's voice grew defensive. "I didn't mean for this to happen, Maya. I never wanted to hurt you." "Well, you did," Maya snapped. "And now I'm supposed to believe that this was just some innocent mistake?" Ryan looked down, unable to meet her eyes. "I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say." Maya shook her head, her voice trembling with anger. "You don't get to apologize and walk away from this, Ryan. You destroyed our marriage. You destroyed us." Ryan didn't respond. He simply stood there, looking defeated, as Maya turned and walked away. She didn't have the energy to fight with him anymore. That night, Maya sat in her office, trying to make sense of everything. Her novel sat open on her laptop, the cursor blinking on a blank page. She felt paralyzed, unsure of how to move forward. Then her phone buzzed. It was a text from Max. "Just checking in. Hope you're doing okay." Maya stared at the message, her heart aching. She wanted to tell Max everything, to let him be her anchor in the storm. But she hesitated. Max didn't deserve to be dragged into her mess. Instead, she replied, "Thanks for checking in. It's been a rough day, but I'll be okay." A moment later, Max responded, "If you ever need to talk, I'm here. No pressure." Maya smiled faintly. Max's kindness was a small light in the darkness, and she was grateful for it. Over the next few days, Maya focused on her novel. She poured all her pain, anger, and betrayal into the pages, turning her emotions into raw, powerful prose. The story took on a life of its own, becoming a cathartic outlet for everything she was feeling. Sarah checked in regularly, offering her support and encouragement. She even helped Maya come up with ideas for the book, brainstorming scenes and twists that would keep readers hooked. "This is going to be amazing," Sarah said one afternoon as they worked together in Maya's office. "You're turning your pain into something meaningful. That's true strength, Maya." Maya nodded, her resolve growing stronger with each passing day. She wasn't just writing a book, she was reclaiming her power. But Maya couldn't ignore the loose ends. Olivia's words about Ryan's secret still haunted her. She decided to dig deeper into Ryan's finances, determined to uncover the full extent of his deception. What she found shocked her. Hidden within their joint accounts were transfers to an offshore account she'd never seen before. The amounts were substantial, enough to make her question where the money was going and why. Maya's mind raced with possibilities, each one more damning than the last. She printed out the statements and placed them in a folder. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. Ryan was hiding something much bigger, and Maya was determined to find out what it was. That evening, Maya confronted Ryan once again. This time, she didn't give him the chance to deflect. "What
Is this?" she demanded, slamming the folder onto the dining table. Ryan's eyes widened as he flipped through the statements. "Maya, I can explain." "Save it," Maya said sharply. "I want the truth, Ryan, all of it. No more lies." Ryan
sighed, his shoulders slumping. It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" Maya pressed. Ryan hesitated, then finally spoke. "The money, it's for Claire. She's been in trouble, and I've been helping her out." Maya's jaw tightened. "Helping her out? With our money? Without telling?"
"Me?" Ryan nodded. "I didn't want to burden you. I thought I could handle it on my own." Maya's anger flared. "You don't get to make that decision, Ryan. This isn't just about you."
"This is about us, and you've been lying to me for months." Ryan didn't respond, and Maya felt her patience snap. "I'm done, Ryan." Maya sat in her car outside the apartment building where Claire lived. She'd found the address scrawled in the private investigator's report, and her curiosity had finally gotten the better of her. Her mind raced with questions, her emotions swinging between anger, confusion, and determination. Ryan's explanations had only deepened her mistrust. Whatever he was hiding, Maya was going to uncover it, even if it meant confronting Claire directly. Taking a deep breath, she stepped out of the car. The cold evening air bit at her skin as she approached the building's entrance. She buzzed. The apartment number listed in the report. After a long pause, a hesitant female voice answered. "Hello, Claire. My name is Maya. I need to speak with you." "It's about Ryan Collins," Maya said firmly. There was silence on the other end. Then the door buzzed open. Maya stepped inside and made her way up to the third floor. Her heart pounded as she knocked on the door. Claire opened it cautiously, her face pale and her eyes wary. She was younger than Maya had expected, with dark hair pulled into a loose bun and an air of nervousness about her. "Can I come in?" Maya asked. Claire hesitated, then stepped aside. I suppose so." Maya walked into the small apartment, taking in the sparse furniture and scattered belongings. It was clear that Claire wasn't living a lavish lifestyle, which only added to Maya's confusion. "What do you want?" Claire asked, her voice trembling. Maya turned to face her. "I want answers. Ryan has been lying to me for months, and I know you're involved."
"I need to know the truth." Claire's eyes widened. She took a step back, her hands fidgeting nervously. "I don't know what you're talking about." Maya's patience snapped. "Don't play games with me, Claire. I know about the money."
"I know about the time you've been spending with my husband. If you have any decency, you'll tell me what's going on." Claire's face crumpled, and she sank onto the couch. "I didn't want this," she whispered.
"I never wanted to hurt anyone." Maya folded her arms, her voice cold. "Then tell me the truth." Claire took a shaky breath. "Ryan helped me when I was in trouble. I was in an abusive relationship. My ex was dangerous, and I had nowhere to go. Ryan gave me money to get away, to start over. That's all it was."
Maya frowned, her anger momentarily tempered by confusion. Why didn't he tell me? He said he didn't want to burden you, Claire said. And I think he was afraid you'd misunderstand. Maya's mind reeled. Ryan's secrecy suddenly made sense, but it didn't erase the betrayal she felt. You expect me to believe that nothing else was going on between you two? Claire shook her head vehemently. There wasn't. Ryan was kind to me, but it was never anything more than that. I swear. Maya studied Claire's face, searching for any sign of deception. She saw fear and guilt, but no indication that Claire was lying. Still, the damage was done. Whether or not Ryan's relationship with Claire had been innocent, he had betrayed Maya's trust by hiding it from her. Thank you for telling me the truth, Maya said, finally. But this doesn't change the fact that Ryan lied to me. He broke our marriage. Claire looked down, her expression heavy with guilt. I'm sorry, Maya. I never meant to cause any harm. Maya nodded curtly and left the apartment, her emotions swirling as she walked back to her car. The confrontation had given her some clarity, but it also left her feeling more betrayed than ever. Ryan had chosen to help Claire in secret, leaving Maya in the dark. It was a betrayal of trust that she couldn't forgive. When Maya got home, she found Ryan waiting for her in the living room. He looked up as she entered, his face a mixture of guilt and exhaustion. "Where have you been?" he asked. Maya dropped her bag on the floor and crossed her arms. "I went to see Claire." Ryan's eyes widened. "You what?" "I needed answers," Maya said. "And she told me everything. About the money, about her ex. Why didn't you—" "Tell me, Ryan, why did you keep it a secret?" Ryan rubbed his temples, his frustration evident. "I told you I didn't want to burden you, and I didn't think you'd understand." "You didn't think I'd understand?" Maya repeated, her voice rising. "I'm your wife, Ryan. We're supposed to face things together, but instead you shut me out and lied to me." "I didn't lie," Ryan protested. "I just didn't tell you everything." Maya shook her head, her anger boiling over. "That's the same thing, Ryan. You broke my trust. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to find out about—" "All this from a private investigator? To think you might be cheating on me?" Ryan looked stricken. I'm sorry, Maya. I never meant for it to get this far. I was just trying to help her." "And what about me?" Maya demanded. "Did you ever think about how your actions would affect me? Or did you just assume I'd never find out?" Ryan didn't respond, and Maya felt a bitter sense of satisfaction at his silence. He had no excuses left. "I don't know if I can do this anymore, Ryan," she said quietly. "I don't know if I can trust you again." Ryan's head snapped up, panic flashing in his eyes. "Maya, please, don't say that. We can work through this. I'll do whatever it takes." Maya held up a hand, stopping him. "I need time to think. Don't push me, Ryan. You've done enough damage already." Without another word, she turned and walked upstairs, leaving Ryan alone in the living room. She felt drained, but also resolute. This was her breaking point, and she wouldn't let Ryan's actions define her any longer. In the days that followed, Maya threw herself into her novel. The story was taking shape, and each word she wrote felt like a step toward reclaiming her life. She poured her pain and anger onto the page, crafting a tale of betrayal and redemption that felt cathartic and empowering. Max continued to check in, offering his support and encouragement. Maya found herself looking forward to their conversations, appreciating the way Max made her feel seen and valued. "You're doing amazing work, Maya," Max said during one of their calls. "This book is going to be something special." Maya smiled, feeling a flicker of hope. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she was starting to find her footing again, but she knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Ryan's betrayal. Had Maya stared at her laptop screen, her hands hovering above the keyboard? Her novel was almost complete, but the ending, the culmination of everything she had poured her heart into, was proving elusive. She wanted it to be powerful, a reflection of the strength she had found in herself. But as much as the story felt cathartic, it wasn't enough. There was still unfinished business in her life, questions that needed answers, and a truth she needed to face. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was Max. "Hey, Maya, just checking in. How's the book coming along?" "Almost done," she replied. "Just working on the ending." "No rush, but I'm looking forward to reading it," Max said warmly. "Let me know if you need anything." Maya smiled. "Thanks, Max. I'll let you know." After the call, Maya leaned back in her chair, her thoughts returning to Ryan. Despite everything, he was still a part of her life, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding more. The confrontation with Claire had provided some answers, but it also raised more questions. Why had Ryan gone to such lengths to help Claire? And why had he kept it all from her? Determined to get to the bottom of it, Maya decided to confront Ryan one last time. She texted him to meet her at the house that evening. When Ryan walked through the door, he looked weary. The past few weeks had taken a toll on him, and Maya could see it in his eyes. "You wanted to talk?" he asked, his voice tentative. Maya nodded. "I need the truth, Ryan, all of it. No more lies, no more half-truths. If there's anything else you've been hiding, now is the time to tell me." Ryan sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "I've already told you everything, Maya." "No, you haven't," she said sharply. "You've only told me what you think I can handle. But I'm done playing games. If you want any chance of fixing this, you need to be honest with me." Ryan hesitated, his jaw tightening. Finally, he spoke. "There's one more thing, but I don't think you're going to like it." "Try me," Maya said, crossing her arms. Ryan took a deep breath. "The money I gave Claire, it wasn't just to help her get away from her ex. It was also to keep her quiet." Maya's stomach turned. "Quiet about what?" "About the fact that I was the one who introduced her to her ex in the first place," Ryan admitted. "I didn't know he was abusive at the time, but I feel responsible for what happened to her. I thought helping her would make up for it." Maya's mind reeled. This new revelation was almost too much to process. "You're telling me that Claire's nightmare started because of you? And you thought throwing money at her would fix it?" Ryan's shoulders slumped. "I know it was wrong. I just..." "Didn't know what else to do." Maya shook her head, anger and disbelief coursing through her. "You had so many chances to tell me the truth, Ryan, but you chose to keep me in the dark and handle everything on your own. That's not what a partnership is. That's not what a marriage is." Ryan looked at her, his expression pleading. "I've made mistakes, Maya. I know that. But I love you, and I want to make this right. Please, just give me a chance." Maya took a step back, her resolve hardening. "I don't know if I can do that, Ryan. Trust isn't something you can rebuild overnight. And right now, I don't know if I even want to try." The next morning, Maya woke up with a sense of clarity. She had spent the night thinking about everything. Ryan's lies, her own pain, and the future she wanted for herself. It was time to make a decision. She called Max and asked if he could meet her at a cafe nearby. When she arrived, he was already there, a warm smile on his face. "Hey, Maya, you look like you've made up your mind about something," Max said as she sat down. "I have," Maya replied. "I'm going to finish the book, and I'm going to leave Ryan." Max's expression softened. "Are you sure?" Maya nodded. I've spent so much time trying to fix something that's broken beyond repair. Ryan's choices aren't my responsibility. It's time for me to focus on myself and my future. Max reached across the table and placed a reassuring hand on hers. I'm
Proud of you, Maya. You're stronger than you realize. Maya smiled, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders.
For the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful about what lay ahead. That evening, Maya packed a suitcase and left a note for Ryan. She didn't need a dramatic goodbye or another heated argument. She had said everything she needed to say, and now it was time to move forward. As she drove away from the house, she felt a mixture of sadness and relief. Her marriage was over, but her life wasn't. She had a book to finish, a future to build, and a strength within her that she hadn't realized she possessed. Maya pulled over to the side of the road and opened her laptop. She typed the final words of her novel, tears streaming down her face as she poured her heart into the ending. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was her story, a testament to her resilience and her ability to overcome even the deepest betrayals. She closed the laptop and leaned back in her seat, a sense of peace washing over her. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, in a long time, Maya was ready to face it on her own terms. Months later, Maya stood in front of a packed bookstore holding a copy of her published novel. The applause from the audience filled the air as she took a deep breath, pride and gratitude swelling in her chest. Her story, once a source of pain, had become a beacon of hope for others. As she signed books and spoke with readers, she caught Max's warm smile from across the room. Life had been difficult, but she had rebuilt it piece by piece. For the first time in years, Maya felt truly
Free and ready for whatever came next.